Let's take a look around the Adobe Camera Raw dialog box. So I already have an image open. So let's go up to the top left-hand side. We have the menu like we do for any program. Then we have a film strip. If I had more than one image that I was trying to process, they would all stack up here, and you could click on each one individually. We will be playing with that in a little bit. Next up, we have the tool panel. All the different tools. So we have a zoom tool, just like in Photoshop, a hand tool to move things around, a white balance tool, a color sampler tool, a targeted adjustment tool, a crop tool, a straighten tool, one of my favorites, the transform tool, the spot removal tool, the red eye removal tool, the adjustment brush, graduate filter, radio filter, and then this is the preference dialog. We're going to look at that in a little bit. And you can rotate clockwise or counterclockwise here, or toggle to mark for delete. Over here, we have a toggle to full screen mode. And then we've got a histogram. Right in here, your RGB values. So this white is a 203, 209, 217 for the RGB values. Next up, it tells us what our image looked like when we shot it. So I shot this at f13 at 2/50th of a second. ISO 800 with my 24-105 lens at 105. These are all different tabs, and when you click on each one, you can see that this below here is changing the detail information. And we're going to go into all of these as well, but we're going to start today with the Basics tab. Next up, we have treatment. That means, are we wanting to keep this as a color or a black and white image? We have a profile, Adobe Profile, Adobe Color Profile is first up, but we've got landscape, portrait, standard, and vivid, all Adobe, and Adobe Monochrome. We can view it as a little drop down, and what I did here, you guys, because I did that pretty quick, it's got this four little panes here, browse profiles. I clicked on there, and you can show it as a grid or as a list. I like the grid, and you can kind of see as I cruise over them, Adobe Monochrome turns to black and white. This is what Adobe Portrait looks like. So the color is changing on each one of these. We have a camera matching. So these are what are set up in your camera. So I'm shooting a Sony a7 III. So I've got my clear, deep, light, landscape, neutral, portrait, vivid, standard, and monochrome settings that mimic what happened in the camera. Adobe Raw mimics what was just above here, but then you get into some fun ones like artistic, where you can get different tones happening. And black and white, a variety of different black and whites. They all do different things, as you can see. So don't be afraid to explore these. Modern and vintage. I like some of the modern and some of the vintage, so it's pretty fun. Once you pick one, you can just hit close. Oh, one other thing. Sorry about that. When we come down here, like to, let's say, modern. If I click on modern 01, if I come up here to amount, I can crank it higher or lessen it. So you can see that we've got some flexibility here. I'm just going to go with the straight old Adobe Color, and I don't have an amount that I can change on that. These are just dialed into what they want, they being Adobe. So after picking your color treatment, you want to then go down and play with exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, whites, blacks, texture, clarity, dehaze, vibrance, saturation. Those are the basics. We're going to go into all of these in depth. At the bottom of the screen, you can see we've got, it says image 1, these little icons here. We're going to do a video just on this, and we're going to do a video just on opening, cancel, and done. And included in that one, we're going to do save image. This is our file name right here. Over on the left-hand side, it says reviewing this at 31.1%. I can come on to my image. I'm on the zoom tool right now, and I can just zoom it up if I want, or I can hit Command minus to zoom it down, so Command plus or Command minus, just like in Photoshop. If I want it to fit in screen, I can click on the little drop-down arrow, fit in view again. I can hop over here, pick exactly what percentage I want to view things in. I can use the zoom tool. I can use Command plus or minus. Next up, the Adobe Rgb workflow options. Our color space is Adobe Rgb 1998, just like we've talked about since the very beginning of the semester. I want to change this to 16-bit channels instead of 8-bit. 16-bit gives us more information. I'm going to leave it image sizing to the defaults, changing my resolution from 300 or 72 to 240. Why 240? Because I'm printing out on an inkjet printer. I'm not going to sharpen here, and I'm not going to save this as a smart object. I can do both of those things in Photoshop. So I'm going to hit OK. So that's where things are in ACR. We're going to make 2 more short little videos, and then we're going to get on to processing an image.